Born as a human, a rare chance to awaken. Have you ever paused and wondered, why were you born as a human? Out of countless life forms in this vast universe, what brought you here, into this body, with this mind, and this very moment? It's easy to take our human life for granted, caught up in routines, desires, and distractions. But according to ancient Buddhist wisdom, being born as a human isn't just lucky, it's one of the rarest and most powerful opportunities in existence. Imagine this: a blind turtle lives in the bottom of a vast ocean. Once every 100 years, it swims to the surface. Floating on the water is a wooden yoke with a single hole. What are the chances that the turtle's head pops up right through that hole? Nearly impossible. And yet, the Buddha tells us, those are the odds of being born as a human. Why is this life so precious? Because unlike other realms of existence, humans have the perfect balance of pain and peace. We're not lost in constant suffering like beings in lower realms, nor are we intoxicated by endless pleasure like the gods. Here and now, we can feel, we can question, we can understand, and most importantly, we can change. We can choose to wake up. This life isn't just a fleeting moment, it's a bridge. A chance to transform confusion into clarity, craving into contentment, ignorance into insight. The question is, will we recognize the gift we've been given before it's too late? 1. Though birth brings suffering, being born as a human is incredibly precious. From the very foundation of Buddhist thought, life, especially birth, is recognized as the starting point of suffering. The moment we are born, we are exposed to a world of impermanence, pain, uncertainty, and eventual death. We inherit not only the gift of existence, but also the burden of aging, illness, loss, and attachment. Yet within this seemingly grim outlook lies a profound truth. Being born as a human is one of the rarest and most valuable opportunities we can ever receive in the entire cycle of samsara. In Buddhist cosmology, there are 6 primary realms of existence, each representing a different state of mind and karmic result. These are the heavenly realm, deva, filled with pleasures, long life, and ease. The human realm, manasa, a mix of suffering and happiness. The animal realm, tirya, driven by instinct and fear. The hungry ghost realm, preta, filled with insatiable craving. The hell realm, naraka, consumed by intense suffering. The realm of asuras, demigods ruled by jealousy and constant conflict. Out of all these, the human realm is considered the most fertile ground for spiritual growth. Why? Because it holds a unique equilibrium. In the heavenly realms, beings are so absorbed in bliss that they forget about impermanence and make no effort to seek liberation. When their good karma runs out, they fall, often unprepared for the immense suffering that follows. In contrast, beings in the lower realms, such as hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals, are so overwhelmed by pain, ignorance, or craving that they can hardly form the kind of insight required to practice the Dharma. An animal may know fear, loyalty, or even affection, but it cannot reflect deeply on suffering or its cause. It cannot meditate, question, or strive for liberation. But we, as humans, are different. We experience both joy and sorrow. We witness death, yet dream of immortality. We fall, but we also long to rise. This very tension gives birth to the spiritual path. We suffer, yes, but our suffering can awaken us rather than destroy us. The human realm, precisely because of its imperfection, is the ideal space for transformation. I remember a period in my life when everything seemed to fall apart. A close friend passed away unexpectedly. My work felt meaningless. My days became mechanical, hollow. At first, I saw it as misfortune. But as time passed, something began to shift. That deep pain pushed me to ask real questions. What is the purpose of life? Why do we suffer? What lies beyond this cycle of gain and loss? Without that suffering, I might never have touched the teachings of the Buddha. I might have continued drifting, distracted by comfort and ambition. It was hardship that cracked open the shell of my complacency. It was pain that led me inward. A friend once said, if I had been born rich and successful, I probably would have ignored all this spiritual stuff. And he was right. Too much pleasure can dull our awareness. Too much pain can drown it. But just enough of both? That's where awakening begins. In the scriptures, the Buddha used a powerful metaphor to explain the rarity of human birth. He said, "Suppose there is a blind turtle that comes to the surface of the ocean once every 100 years. Floating on the surface is a wooden yoke with a single hole. The chance that the turtle's head would rise exactly through that hole is the same as the chance of being born as a human being. In other words, it's almost impossible, and yet, here we are. Alive. Aware. Breathing. Capable of compassion, insight, and choice. When we realize this, it changes everything. Life is no longer something we endure, it becomes a sacred opportunity. Every moment, every breath, every difficulty becomes a chance to grow. To see clearly. To break the chains of ignorance and walk the path to freedom. Yes, birth is suffering. But within that suffering lies the key to liberation. If we are wise, we will not waste this rare and fleeting human life. We will cherish it, not by clinging to it, but by using it as the precious vessel it is. A raft, as the Buddha said, to carry us across the ocean of samsara to the shore of nirvana. 2. Being born as a human is the result of great merit from the past. In Buddhist teachings, nothing happens by chance. The law of karma, cause and effect, governs all aspects of existence, including the realm into which we are born. To be born as a human, especially one with sound body and mind, is not something random. It is the fruition of vast stores of good karma, accumulated through lifetimes of ethical conduct, generosity, patience, and sincere spiritual aspiration. The Buddha taught that even among humans, there are many differences. Some are born into conditions of wealth and safety, others into hardship and struggle. Some are born with clear intelligence, others with limited understanding. But to be born as a human at all, and furthermore to possess a sound body, with all 6 senses intact, a functioning mind, and the opportunity to encounter the Dharma, that is incredibly rare. So rare, in fact, that the scriptures often refer to it as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. The Buddha's words. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "Hard it is to be born as a human being. Hard is the life of mortals. Hard is it to hear the true teaching. Hard it is for the awakened to arise." This verse serves as a wake-up call. The conditions we have right now are not guaranteed in any future life. They are not entitlements, they are the rewards of virtue. If we do not use this human life wisely, we may lose it, and the chance may not come again for countless eons. A deeper understanding of karma. Many people misunderstand karma as some form of cosmic punishment or reward. In truth, it is simply the natural unfolding of actions and their consequences. A being who practiced generosity, refrained from harming others, spoke truthfully, and cultivated the mind in past lives would naturally generate the karmic conditions favorable for a human rebirth. On the other hand, actions rooted in hatred, greed, and delusion tend to produce rebirths in lower realms. For example, someone who spent lifetimes harming others, acting out of cruelty or selfishness, may be reborn as an animal or in hellish realms, places where the conditions for insight are nearly impossible. But here you are, reading these words, contemplating the Dharma. That alone is evidence that your past actions carried immense merit. Personal reflection. There was a time in my life when I didn't believe in karma or rebirth. I thought everything was random or based solely on chance and effort in this life. But then I started meeting people who had suffered endlessly despite their goodness, and others who seemed to be born into ease and success without ever lifting a finger. Life clearly wasn't a simple equation of effort equals result. It wasn't until I began studying Buddhist philosophy that things started to make more sense. Karma offered a deeper, long-view perspective. It explained why some people are born with innate kindness or wisdom beyond their years. Why others seem to have an unexplainable resonance with spiritual teachings, as if remembering something they once knew. I once met a woman who, upon hearing the word mindfulness for the first time, broke into tears. "I don't know why," she said, "but it feels like coming home." That's the power of karmic seeds ripening. What we practiced before continues to echo through the present. The urgency of recognition. Knowing that this life is the result of immense merit also comes with a responsibility. If we've received this precious body, this awareness, and this access to the Dharma, we cannot afford to waste it. Every day we delay our practice, every moment we spend lost in distraction or negative habits, we drift further from the path that our past selves worked so hard to prepare. It's like being given a ship after lifetimes of building it plank by plank, only to let it rot unused on the shore. The precious human life. In Tibetan Buddhism, practitioners are encouraged to contemplate the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments that make a human life so rare and valuable. These include not being born in hell or animal realms, having access to spiritual teachers, living in a time when the Buddhist teachings are still available, and having the intellectual and emotional faculties to understand them. These contemplations are not meant to induce guilt or pressure, they are meant to awaken urgency. A soft, steady fire in the heart that says, this chance won't last forever. Use it well. So let us remember, we are not here by accident. This moment, this body, this breath, this mind, is the ripening of deep and sacred causes. Let us honor those causes with sincere effort, gratitude, and the determination to walk the path to liberation. 3. Human life is short, but holds enormous power to shape destiny. If we step back and observe the rhythm of life, we see that human existence is astonishingly brief. Compared to the lifespan of a tree, a mountain, or even the vast ages of the cosmos, our lives pass like a flash of lightning in a summer storm. One moment, we are children learning to walk. The next, we are adults chasing dreams, only to grow old and face death, all in the blink of an eye. Yet despite its brevity, a single human life possesses the power to change the course of countless future lives. In Buddhist thought, what we do with this fleeting existence does not simply vanish at death. Like seeds sown in fertile soil, our intentions, actions, and mental habits continue to bear fruit long after the body has turned to dust. A life of great significance. While gods in the heavenly realms may live for eons and hell beings may suffer for what seems like eternity, neither group typically generates the kind of transformative karma that humans can. Why? Because neither extreme, bliss or torment, encourages deep introspection. In contrast, humans live with just enough suffering to inspire spiritual seeking, and just enough freedom to pursue that search. In this way, a human lifetime becomes a powerful turning point. In the few decades we are given, we can create the karma to be reborn in better conditions, lay the foundation for eventual liberation, deepen our understanding of the Dharma, or, conversely, generate the causes for further entrapment in samsara. This makes our current life incredibly significant, not because it will last forever, but because it won't. A personal reflection. I once met an elderly monk who had lived a simple life in a remote monastery. He had no possessions, no worldly fame, no digital legacy. But his presence was profound, calm, grounded, joyful in a quiet way. When asked if he had any regrets, he smiled and said, "No. I used this life well. That's all we're ever given, the chance to plant good seeds." His words struck me deeply. In a world where we are constantly measuring our lives by achievements, wealth, or popularity, it's easy to forget that our real power lies not in what we collect, but in what we become. A kind act, a moment of mindfulness, a sincere effort to understand suffering, these things seem small, but they ripple across lifetimes. Compare this to someone who spends their entire life chasing fame, only to realize on their deathbed that they never truly lived. Their name might be remembered, but their soul remains restless, unfulfilled, bound by desires that never brought lasting peace. The urgency of time. Because life is so short, Buddhism places great emphasis on urgency, what is called samvega in Pali, a deep, heartfelt realization of impermanence and the motivation to seek liberation. This doesn't mean we must live in anxiety or haste. It means we don't waste time in trivial pursuits. We prioritize what truly matters. As the Buddha once advised, the days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? This question is not meant to induce guilt, but to awaken clarity. We do not know how long we have. The young die before the old. The healthy fall ill without warning. Life does not follow our plans. But while we are still breathing, we have the chance to shape our future with intention and wisdom. The path forward. What makes human life so powerful is not its length, but its potential. In this very body, with this very mind, we can recognize the causes of suffering. Choose a path of ethical living. Train the mind in meditation and awareness. Cultivate compassion and wisdom. Begin the journey from ignorance to awakening. This is why every moment counts. Not because we must strive to be perfect, but because each moment is a brushstroke on the canvas of our karma. And in this short life, we are the artist. Let us not be lulled by comfort or distracted by worldly noise. Let us remember that in this fleeting life, we hold the power to transform not only ourselves, but the trajectory of our entire existence. We may not live forever, but what we do in this life echoes far beyond its end. 4. The human body is a tool, not the final goal. In a world that often idolizes physical beauty, youth, and vitality, it's easy to forget that the human body is not our ultimate possession, nor our true identity. In Buddhist philosophy, the body is seen neither as something to be rejected nor worshipped. It is a means, a temporary vessel, a bridge that allows us to cross the ocean of suffering toward the shore of liberation. We don't own this body in the ultimate sense. It changes without our consent. It ages, gets sick, and eventually breaks down and dies. No matter how much effort we pour into preserving it, through diet, medicine, or cosmetic surgery, it remains fragile and impermanent. The Buddha reminds us again and again, the body is subject to decay, and clinging to it as self leads only to suffering. But here's the paradox: even though the body is impermanent and empty of true self, it is precisely because of this body that we can walk the spiritual path. It is through this body that we can sit in meditation, bow in reverence, speak words of kindness, listen to teachings, and practice generosity. It is a field of practice, a sacred tool, if we know how to use it wisely. The body as a vehicle for liberation. Think of the body as a raft. The Buddha once said, "This body, O monks, is not yours, nor is it you. It is only a vessel, a heap of elements, sustained by food and subject to decay. Use it as a tool to cross the flood of suffering." This teaching doesn't deny the body's importance, it clarifies its purpose. Just as a raft is precious when crossing a river, but must eventually be left behind when reaching the shore, the body is essential for the journey but not the destination. The goal of Buddhist practice isn't to glorify the body or indulge its desires endlessly, but to use it skillfully as a support for ethical conduct, mindfulness, and wisdom. If we misuse it, chasing only sensory pleasures or causing harm to others, the body becomes a source of karmic bondage. But if we treat it as a sacred opportunity, it becomes a temple for awakening. A personal reflection. There was a time in my youth when I was obsessed with my appearance. I exercised constantly, avoided any food that might ruin my physique, and felt anxious whenever I saw signs of aging. I placed so much of my self-worth in how I looked that I couldn't see beyond the mirror. But when I began practicing meditation and reading the suttas, something shifted. I started seeing my body not as an ornament, but as a tool. A vessel for compassion. A container for consciousness. Suddenly, I wasn't meditating to feel calm, I was meditating to wake up. I wasn't caring for my body to be admired, I was caring for it so I could serve others better, live with clarity, and die without regret. One of the most moving things I ever witnessed was a paralyzed man in a wheelchair who, despite his condition, radiated joy and wisdom. He said, "My body may be limited, but my mind is free. And that's all that matters." His words struck me deeply. They reminded me that freedom is not about having a perfect body, it's about knowing how to use whatever body we have in the service of truth. The danger of misusing the body. If we let the body control us, if we chase after pleasure, indulge in cravings, or act out of anger, it can become the root of endless suffering. Wars have been fought over desire. Families torn apart by greed. lives ruined by addiction to sense pleasures. When we identify too strongly with the body, we fall into delusion. We forget who we really are, something far more spacious and luminous than flesh and bone. But if we keep our relationship with the body in balance, we can live in harmony. We nourish it, but don't worship it. We enjoy its abilities, but don't cling to them. We witness its changes with wisdom rather than fear. In this way, the body becomes a Dharma gate, a reminder of impermanence, a field for cultivating virtue, and a tool for spiritual progress. A shift in perspective. Rather than asking, "How can I make my body perfect?" we can ask, "How can I use this body to benefit others? How can I honor this life by walking the path of truth? How can I live in a way that prepares me not just for death, but for freedom?" This shift in perspective brings both humility and empowerment. It reminds us that the body will fail us one day, but what we do with this body can echo through lifetimes. Let us care for this body not as a treasure to be clung to, but as a precious instrument to be played with awareness. Let us use it to walk the Noble Eightfold Path, to live with mindfulness, to act with compassion, and to awaken, here and now. 5. Realizing the preciousness of human life inspires diligent practice. When we truly understand how rare, fragile, and meaningful this human life is, we can no longer afford to drift through it in complacency. Instead, we feel a natural sense of urgency, not a panicked rush, but a deep, steady determination to live purposefully, to practice the Dharma sincerely, and to make each moment count. The Buddha encouraged his disciples to contemplate 4 themes regularly: the preciousness of human birth, the certainty of death, the reality of karma, and the suffering inherent in samsara. These reflections are not meant to depress us, they are meant to wake us up. Because if we really see how easily this life can slip away, we begin to ask ourselves, what am I doing with my time? Am I moving closer to truth or further away? If today were my last day, would I regret how I lived? Death is certain, but its timing is not. One of the most sobering truths in Buddhism is the reality of death. No one escapes it. No matter how strong, young, or wealthy we are, death will come, and it can come at any moment. We may not like to think about this, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. On the contrary, forgetting death causes us to waste life. But when we keep this truth in our hearts, not in fear, but in clarity, we begin to value time differently. Every morning becomes a gift. Every breath, a miracle. We realize we are living on borrowed time, and that realization fuels our commitment to live wisely. As the Dhammapada says, better than 100 years lived in laziness and lack of effort is one day lived with deep awareness and right practice. A personal reflection. I once attended a meditation retreat where the teacher asked us to write a letter as if we only had 24 hours left to live. At first, I resisted the idea, it felt too grim. But when I finally sat down to write, I realized how much I'd been putting off, words I hadn't said, fears I hadn't faced, time I'd wasted on trivial things. That simple exercise brought me face to face with the fact that life has an expiration date, and none of us know when it is. From that moment, something shifted. I began to practice not just when I had time, but because time is running out. I started to value stillness over distraction, depth over comfort. The awareness of impermanence became a quiet fire in my heart, pushing me gently but firmly toward practice. The wise make use of today. When we grasp how extraordinary and fleeting this human life is, procrastination no longer makes sense. The "I'll practice tomorrow" mindset begins to feel hollow. The wise do not wait for a perfect moment, they practice now, knowing that now is all we ever have. In Tibetan Buddhism, this is called power of the present moment, the recognition that awakening is not something we prepare for in the distant future, but something we must begin here, in this breath, in this choice, in this very moment. A poignant teaching from the Dhammapada. The Buddha once said, "Rare is birth as a human being. Rare is life that continues. Rare is hearing the true Dharma. Rare is the arising of a Buddha in the world." This verse encapsulates the essence of urgency. Right now, we have all these conditions. We are alive, we are human, we have the Dharma, and we live in a time where the Buddhist teachings are accessible. If we cannot awaken now, when will we? Practicing with a sense of purpose. To practice diligently doesn't mean we have to become monks or meditate 10 hours a day. It simply means we remember what truly matters. We live mindfully. We speak with kindness. We choose our actions based on wisdom rather than impulse. We keep the Dharma close to our hearts, not as a theory, but as a living guide. When we see the preciousness of life, even the small moments become meaningful. Washing the dishes becomes a practice in mindfulness. Talking to a friend becomes a chance to offer compassion. Sitting in silence becomes a door to freedom. The realization of life's rarity and impermanence is not meant to frighten us, it is meant to liberate us. It frees us from laziness, distraction, and delusion. It helps us rise each morning with a sense of purpose, knowing that today, this very day, could be the turning point of our entire existence. May we never forget. We have a body that can move, a mind that can think, and a heart that can awaken. We are alive. We are human. We are aware. And that is already a miracle. Conclusion: cherish this life, walk the path. To be born as a human is not just a coincidence, it is the rare result of vast, accumulated merit and a window of opportunity in the vast ocean of samsara. We may not remember the good deeds we did in past lives, but this human birth is proof that seeds of virtue once bloomed within us. Now, we are given the chance to continue that journey, not only for our own freedom but also for the benefit of all beings. In the human realm, we are gifted with awareness, moral discernment, and the capacity to choose. We can reflect on our actions. We can feel compassion. We can seek truth. No other realm offers such a delicate balance of suffering and wisdom, the perfect conditions for awakening. Yes, this life is short. The body is impermanent. The world is filled with distractions. But that is exactly why we must practice now, not later. There is no guarantee we will have the same opportunity again. As the Buddha reminded us, the days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well are we spending our time? Each moment is a crossroad. Each decision is a step toward bondage or liberation. And we have within us the power to shape our path. So let us not wait. Let us not waste this miracle of a human life in chasing fleeting pleasures or clinging to what will surely pass. Let us use this body, this breath, this brief existence to cultivate wisdom, live with compassion, and walk the noble path the Buddha laid before us. The Dharma is here. The chance is now. This human life is not just a blessing, it is a calling. May we honor it. May we awaken through it. And may we use it to bring light, not only to ourselves, but to all beings lost in darkness.